Have you ever stood outside on a clear night and looked up at the stars? It is a vast and silent expanse. For many of us, that silence mirrors our spiritual lives. You pray and you wait. You search the scriptures for a clear word, but all you hear is the beating of your own heart. This experience is often called the hiddenness of God. It is one of the most difficult challenges a person can face. It is not just a philosophical puzzle. It is an emotional weight that can lead to deep doubt. If God is real and if He is love, then why does He seem to hide from those who want to find Him? This question is not new. It has been asked by saints and skeptics alike for thousands of years. Think of the story of Job in the Bible. Job was a man who lost everything. His wealth, his children, and his health were all taken away in a series of tragedies. For chapter after chapter, Job cries out to the heavens. He demands an explanation. He wants his day in court with the Creator. But for a very long time, there is only silence. His friends offer empty theories, but God does not speak. This is the raw reality of the human condition. We want answers, but we often receive stillness. Some people suggest that God is silent now because His revelation is complete. They say that since we have the New Testament, God has already said everything He needs to say. While there is truth in the finality of the gospel, this answer does not always comfort the soul that feels abandoned. The argument for divine hiddenness suggests that if God truly desired a relationship with everyone, He would make His existence obvious. A sincere seeker should not be left in the dark. If a person looks for God with an open heart and finds nothing, the critic says this proves God is either not there or does not care. But we must be honest about our own hearts. Is our seeking always as sincere as we believe? Human beings are masters of self-deception. We often claim to look for truth, but we are actually looking for a God who confirms our own desires. Sometimes we treat God like a cosmic vending machine. We put in a prayer and expect a specific result. When the result does not come, we walk away and say, He isn't real. We must also consider that spiritual blindness can be a result of our own choices. Just as a physical eye can be clouded, the spiritual heart can become hardened by pride or past decisions. We blame the sun for not shining, when in reality, we are the ones who have closed the curtains. Think of the prophet Elijah. He was exhausted and hiding in a cave. He expected God to appear in a great wind, an earthquake, or a fire. These were powerful and obvious signs. But God was not in the wind. He was not in the earthquake. He was not in the fire. Instead, God spoke in a still, small voice, a whisper. To hear a whisper, you have to be very close. You have to be very quiet. Perhaps God's hiddenness is an invitation to come closer and listen more intently. Now let us move from the heart to the mind. Even when we feel God is silent, the logic of the universe speaks volumes. One of the most powerful arguments for God is the concept of the first cause. Many people misunderstand this. They think it is just about what happened billions of years ago at the start of time. But there is a more profound version of this argument. It is called the hierarchical causal chain. Imagine you are holding a glass of water. Why is that glass being held up right now? It is supported by your hand. Your hand is supported by your arm. Your arm is supported by your shoulder. Your shoulder is supported by your body. Your body is supported by the chair. The chair is supported by the floor. And the floor is supported by the earth. Every single link in that chain is borrowing its power to stay in place from the link below it. This is not a series of events in the past. It is happening in this exact moment. If you removed the earth, the floor would lose its power to hold the chair. If you removed the chair, your body would fall. Everything would collapse instantly. This tells us that there must be something at the very base of all reality, something that does not borrow its power from anything else. This is what philosophers call a necessary being. This being gives existence to everything else at every microsecond. If this being stopped sustaining the universe, everything would vanish into nothingness. This is the God of the Bible. He is not just a clockmaker who started the world and went to sleep. He is the one in whom we live and move and have our being. If you are finding this exploration of faith and logic helpful, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support allows us to keep producing content that dives deep into the heart of the gospel. It helps us reach more people who are searching for hope and truth in a confusing world. Thank you for being part of this community. Now let us continue our journey. We must also face the most difficult challenge to faith, which is the problem of suffering. This is often what makes God feel most hidden. If a good God is sustaining the universe, why is there so much pain? We look at the natural world and see a brutal process. For millions of years, creatures have struggled to survive. We see predation and disease. Natural selection seems to be built on the suffering of the weak. For a believer, this can be deeply troubling. Why would a loving Creator choose such a messy and painful way to bring about life? There are no easy answers here. But we can look at the concept of fine-tuning for a different perspective. Scientists have discovered that the fundamental constants of our universe are set with impossible precision. Imagine a giant control panel with dozens of dials. Each dial represents a force like gravity or electromagnetism. If you changed any of these dials by even a hair, life would be impossible. If gravity were slightly stronger, the universe would have collapsed back on itself long ago. If it were slightly weaker, stars and planets would never have formed. Consider the expansion rate of the universe. It is tuned to 1 part in 10 to the 120th power. That is a number so large it is hard to imagine. It is like trying to hit a target the size of an atom on the other side of the galaxy with a single arrow. If this rate were different, the universe would be either an empty void or a giant fireball. There are dozens of these constants. When you put them all together, the chance of them all being right by accident is 0. It is far more logical to believe that the system was rigged. It was designed for us. This is what we call the teleological argument. It suggests that the universe has a purpose. When people see this evidence, they often try to find a way out. They suggest the idea of a multiverse. They say that if there are infinite universes, then one of them had to be right for life. But there is a huge problem with this theory. There is no evidence for other universes. We cannot see them. We cannot measure them. Believing in a multiverse is just as much a leap of faith as believing in God. In fact, it might require more faith. Because a multiverse still needs a mechanism to create it. You are just moving the problem one step back. You still need a designer for the universe generator. This brings us to the struggle of nihilism. Nihilism is the belief that life has no objective meaning. It says that we are just a happy accident of chemistry and physics. In this view, your love for your family is just a brain reaction. Your sense of justice is just an evolutionary tool. This is a very dark way to live. Albert Camus, a famous philosopher, said that the only serious question is whether or not to end it all. If there is no God and no purpose, then why stay? But even the most dedicated nihilist does not live as if life is meaningless. They still seek beauty. They still feel outrage at evil. They still hope for a better future. This universal drive for meaning is a sign. We do not hunger for things that do not exist. We feel thirst because water exists. We feel hunger because food exists. We feel a deep desire for ultimate meaning because ultimate meaning exists. This brings us back to the book of Ecclesiastes. The author, known as the teacher, looked at everything under the sun. Ong saw that wealth, power, and even wisdom were like chasing the wind. He used the word Habel to describe it. It means a breath or a vapor. It is real for a moment. Then it is gone. The teacher found that if you only look at the world from a human perspective, everything is absurd. But at the very end of his book, he gives the answer. He says to fear God and keep his commandments. This is not a call to live in terror. To fear God means to have a proper sense of awe and wonder. It means recognizing that He is Jesus, the source of all things. When we place God at the center, the absurdity of life begins to fade. We realize that our lives are not accidents. We are part of a grand story that we cannot yet fully see. The silence of God is not the same as the absence of God. Think of a parent watching a child learn to walk. The parent might stand back and stay quiet. They do not carry the child every step of the way. They want the child to grow. They want the child to develop strength. Sometimes God's silence is a form of respect for our freedom. He does not force himself on us. He gives us enough light to find him, but enough shadow that we are not overwhelmed. If his presence were as obvious as the sun at noon, we would have no choice but to believe. Faith would not be a gift. It would be a necessity. By remaining hidden, God allows us to choose him freely. He allows us to develop a character that is shaped by trust rather than just sight. This is what it means to walk by faith. It is a journey through the fog. You cannot see the destination, but you know the one who is leading you. Remember the story of the disciples on the boat during a storm. Jesus was asleep. To the disciples, it looked like he didn't care. They were terrified. They woke him up and asked, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" Jesus didn't give them a long lecture. He simply spoke to the wind and the waves. "Peace, be still." The storm stopped instantly. He then asked them a vital question. "Why are you so afraid? Have you still no faith?" The silence of Jesus during the storm was not a sign of his absence. It was a test of their trust. He was right there in the boat with them. He is right there in the boat with you, even when he seems to be sleeping. If you are struggling with doubt today, know that you are in good company. Some of the greatest men and women of God have walked through the dark night of the soul. Do not judge God by your current feelings. Feelings are like the weather. They change from hour to hour. But the truth of God is like the mountains. It is firm and unchanging. Look at the fine-tuning of the atoms in your body. Look at the logical necessity of a first cause. Look at the life and resurrection of Jesus Christ. These are the anchors for your soul. When the world feels meaningless, remember that you were created with a purpose. You are not a random collection of cells. You are a masterpiece designed by the Creator of the stars. The silence you hear is not an empty void. It is a space for you to seek him more deeply. Open your heart, open your Bible, and wait with patience. The God who sustains every breath you take is not far away. He is closer than your own skin. He is the beginning and the end. He is the silence, and He is the Word. Trust in Him, and you will find the peace that passes all understanding. May the grace of the Lord be with you as you continue your search. Do not be discouraged by the quiet, for in the stillness, the truth often shines the brightest. Walk forward with hope. You are never truly alone.